drakas. These were the Norman warships. This is what the Scandinavians were by far the best in their era. In the skill of making and operating boats, no one could compare with them. The reason was Scandinavian geography. It was much easier to hop on a boat and sail to a neighbor than to go through cold mountains and forests. A simple practical necessity made it possible to develop a unique skill. Initially, Viking boats were hollowed out from a single tree trunk. Later boats were made from planks, overlapped, and fastened with iron or wooden nails. Oars were fixed along the entire length of the boat, and the pinnacle of ship evolution came with the addition of a sail. The latter was a real value. It was made from sheep's wool. One large sail could require up to 200 kilograms of material and several years of work. But it was worth it. The sail significantly increased both speed and range of travel. Due to the fact that the ships were made as light as possible, under sail they reached speeds of 10 to 12 knots, that is, up to 20 kilometers per hour. The Vikings could cover more than 400 kilometers in a day. An incredible speed by medieval standards. Imagine a dozen such drakas, each capable of carrying 100 Vikings, though usually half that number, approaches a British castle. A small reconnaissance reveals the fortress is well guarded. The peasants hid inside, bringing harvest and livestock with them. Attacking doesn't make sense. While some estate prepared for the arrival of the Normans, other was left weakened due to this. The Vikings returned to their ships and, within a day, find themselves 200 kilometers away, where no one expected these guests. There was no other way to overcome this distance in such a period of time at that moment in history. The element of surprise was one of the keys to the Normans' success. Another uniqueness of Viking ships was that they were equally well suited to sail in the open ocean and rivers. A serious obstacle for Viking ships was not even the land they had to cross. The drakas were light enough that they could simply be dragged over the logs to the next body of water. So, the Vikings, thanks to their shipbuilding, got where they wanted without obvious difficulties. And this is where the fun began. Myth mostly depicts the Normans as barbarians who swept away everything in their path. This is an exaggeration, but the second part isn't far from the truth. The Normans did take everything, along with people who were then sold into slavery. Other was destroyed. Sometimes it was possible to pay a ransom, as the Parisians did in the mid-9th century, sparing their future beautiful city from destruction. Further proof of the cruelty of the Vikings was a prayer that began with the words,
"Save us, Lord, from the wrath of the wild Norman people who dwell in the north."
As for how the northern guys made everyone suffer, the series Vikings did a pretty good job of illustrating it. Common weapons were spears and battle axes, mainly due to their affordability and ease of production. The Normans also had many swords, as archaeological excavations prove. Most were brought from Europe, some were forged at home. Armor was mostly leather, chainmail was rare. Not every Viking could afford a helmet that looked like this. But none of them wore the famous horned hats. The source of this stereotype was Wagner's operas as early as the 19th century. The creators of the series did not invent the fact that women could take part in campaigns. Archaeologists found graves where women were buried as warriors. In terms of gender equality, Vikings could outdo most of their contemporaries. It was almost impossible to marry a Scandinavian woman without her consent. Before the wedding, the parties concluded a contract. Another myth worth debunking is that raiding was the only activity of the Vikings. After seeing Constantinople, Lisbon, and the cities of Persia, the Normans concluded that wealth and status could be achieved not only with axes. The ability to trade was as important to the Viking as waving weapons. They could be used in one campaign. Leaving home, one would load a draka with furs, raid a settlement along the way, capture slaves, and later sell everything and everyone in Constantinople or Baghdad. The Vikings became the creators of trade routes, sailing to the Iberian Peninsula, Africa, and the south of Italy. They expanded the world before the so-called Age of Geographical Discovery. The Normans settled Ireland and Greenland, and in 1001, Leif Eriksson's campaign ended with the Vikings becoming the first Europeans to reach North America. They landed on what is now the Canadian island of Newfoundland, which is called Vinland, the land of grapes, in the Scandinavian sagas. There, the Vikings met the Indians 500 years before Columbus did it. The meeting ended in conflict, and the Normans left America. The Vikings were influenced by what they encountered. They skillfully used it in their own interests. The sagas tell of a Viking who repeatedly converted to Christianity in different places, always receiving great gifts, but was deeply disappointed when his latest baptism in a city only earned him a new shirt. The Normans quickly adapted to new places they settled in. This happened in Normandy, named after the Vikings. It also happened in Sicily, where they founded the kingdom. And so it happened in Rus, which also owes its name and the first ruling dynasty of the Ruriks to guests from the north.